Thank you for listening to Conversations for College Success. And special shout out and thank you to my subscribers. I appreciate you. This podcast is going to be answering questions that I've received that will help you moving forward. The first one's going to deal with resumes, because that was one of the more recent podcasts that I completed. Your name should be centered at the top. It can be one size larger than the rest of your resume. Having said that, though, please be aware of that. The rest of your resume should all be in one size, not only font, but point size. My preference is Times New Roman and 12 point, which means your name at the top, if you wanted to make it larger, would be a 13, no more than 14, or it can be in 12 and in bold, and it's centered and at the top. Your phone number and email address, ways to contact you. One would be to the right, the other would be to the left. That means you're only using 2 lines for that. However, if your resume is on the short side, you can use 3 lines, have your name, your phone number, and then your email address. So that's 3 lines. However, if you need to conserve space, 2 lines is the maximum that you would need to use. Having said that, another question that came through dealt with networking. And I did want to follow up to give some information, not only a dictionary definition, but also other information that I just looked up on the web. So easily just type in networking or what is networking and it will come up. The dictionary definition, the action or process of interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. And I would change that word to relationships. However, there is one other definition of networking, and that would be linking computers, and we are not talking about that. Another, I'll say, definition of networking is the process of making connections and building relationships. And I absolutely agree with that. Those relationships can offer you advice. They can offer you potentially assistance with career decisions, opportunities that are available to you. So there are definitely advantages to creating a larger network than the one that you currently have. And I would say definitely advice and information would be high on the list. However, it's not just about you. It's really a give and take. It isn't a take for you. It is you offering up potentially information, services, etc. to the other person. Because even though you might be young and in college, there are some things that you can offer to, I'll say, more senior professionals, things that they may not be aware of, but skill sets that you have that you are proficient in and they aren't. So there can be an exchange of information and assistance. So I definitely suggest that you do that. Having said that, though, I'm not going to give you a ton of questions to ask, but I will give you at least one question that you can ask. You start by introducing yourself, what your major is, what college or university you're attending, and then asking their name and how did they get to where they are. That's a great starting conversation because it'll give you a host of information about that person. And from that, you can pick and choose the areas that you would like to learn more about, delve more, and learn more information about. They might talk to you about, they could be a CEO of a corporation. They could be a managerial level within an organization. Whether it's a field that you're looking to get into or not, please realize understanding some of the decisions they made can help you make decisions for your future as well. Some people will have started at the bottom and risen straight up. Some people may have started in a professional or leadership training program, which allowed them to rise a little bit quicker within an organization. You want to understand how that particular organization or process works, because that's information that can help you to make decisions about how you want to move forward with your career. So make sure that you are listening, paying attention, and then connect with them on LinkedIn. And we'll talk about LinkedIn in a future session. Another question that I've received, is college for everyone? Here's my response. It's going to depend on your area of interest. For example, if you're looking to get into engineering, nursing, becoming an accountant, social work, etc., you will need to go to college because those types of specialties and professions, and there are others, computer systems, etc., where there's a background and fundamental understanding that you would need to help you to move forward. However, if you're looking to get into what I would call a trade, which could be plumbing, heating, construction, at least initially no. And I say initially no because if you at some point want to become an entrepreneur in that field, then there's going to be some basic things that you're going to need to know and learn to come across as a professional. One could be sales skills. How do you sell your product? The other would be producing your product or delivering your product. The other is going to be, at least in the beginning, you're going to be your own bookkeeper or accountant. So how do you do those things? You might even have to write a proposal. So all of those things, if you don't already know how to do them, you're going to have to go to school or take a course to learn how to do those things. As I mentioned, it would be selling, it would be delivering your product or producing your product. It would also be potentially completing a bid or a proposal for work. And then the other thing sometimes people want to see is what credentials do you bring as an entrepreneur? So instead of maybe a 4-year degree, maybe a 2-year degree, or some specific specializations in your industry that allows someone to know that you do have the expertise that they're looking for. So that's my opinion as it relates to that. Each person has to make their own decisions as to what works better for them. Having said that, that's where networking comes into play, talking to people in your field of interest, seeing what they did, how they made the decisions they made, what courses or classes they attended, even what colleges or universities they went to, whatever that might be. Not saying that you have to follow exactly in their footsteps, because clearly some universities are far more expensive than others. And depending on your financial situation, you may not be able to go to a top of the line, most expensive college or university. The other piece to keep in mind as it relates to that, people have asked about financial aid, and I will be connecting with a financial aid expert and have a podcast on that sometime next year. You need to make some hard decisions about what can I afford. And if you have to work full time, then you can't take a full-time course load, which means you have to take maybe 1 or 2 classes per semester, which means it'll take you longer to graduate, but you also won't be in an enormous amount of debt. So that might be now a local 2-year college university, or that might be a 4-year, again, that's local, that tends to be less expensive. And I say tends to be because different colleges have different tuition, and some of it's based off the recognition, their name, and the contacts and connections you can make by attending that college or university. So you have to think about what is the advantage or disadvantage for whatever college or university that you're looking to attend. And primarily, you really don't want to come out of college, if you can help it, owing hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, because the government will expect you to pay it back. And it's within 6 months of your graduation. So you don't have a lot of time before they're going to be asking for their money back. So you need to think strategically about what makes the most sense for me and how am I going to complete this? Because part of the reason for this particular podcast, Conversations for College Success, is once you've entered college, whether it's a 2-year or a 4-year, we definitely want you to finish. The worst thing you can do is not finish and then have a mound of debt that you have to repay, but you don't have the skill set you need, and therefore you can't get the position you need to allow you to do that. Some of the other things that you need to be thinking about is, particularly if you want to be an entrepreneur at some point in time, how am I going to do that? So whatever your goals are, take some time to sit down and kind of initially map out what you think you need to do to accomplish those goals, and then talk to people. Again, that's where networking comes into play. You can talk to people about what you want to do, how you're looking to do it, and look for their comments and suggestions as to either how they've done it or what they suggest that you do, and then do some research on that. You don't want to just go out and spend a whole lot of money on anything without having done your research on it. And particularly in going to college and universities, what do you want to major in? Is that college's specialty or one of the specialties, so that you're going to one of the colleges and universities that have that expertise. Another example would be nursing. Some go to a 4-year school, some go to a 2-year school. you need to do your research and investigation about what does each one provide. With a 2-year school, in 2 years, you will be at some hospital in a nursing program. And what I mean by that, you might be an STNA and then working your way up to becoming an RN. If you go to a 4-year college or university, you may be able to get directly into their nursing program, which will allow you upon graduation to do that. Whichever one you go to, 2-year, 4-year, you definitely want to make some time to do your internships. Primarily because you want to make sure that's really what you want to do. And I don't mean that as if people don't have desires and don't meet them, but if you actually don't like doing the work that position requires, you should find that out as soon as possible instead of getting a 4-year degree and deciding you don't want to do that anymore. Another arena where that sometimes happens is in social work, where sometimes students don't get to their internships until the end of their college experience, in which case they may only have one internship that they have completed, which really doesn't tell you the entire spectrum of social work. So again, talking to people, making those contacts, having the opportunity to possibly even shadow people in whatever industry or field that you're interested in getting into, whether, quite frankly, that's being a plumber, an electrician, construction worker, or any of the majors, an engineer, a nurse, whatever your major might be, you want to take some time to get to know someone who actually is doing that position and spend a day or at least a half a day with them to see what kind of work do they do. And is that something that is of interest to you and you would like to do and do more of it? The earlier you find that out, it is so much better for yourself and your career, because you really don't want to be changing majors every year because you're not really sure what you want to do or how you want to do it. And you also don't want to be expending a whole host of money that you don't need to if you can take some time to figure out what you really want to do first. Some important information. I will be taking a holiday break myself. And I say that because right after Thanksgiving, which is next week, what ends up happening is college students will be getting together for their finals, their papers, etc., and studying. So you won't be listening to podcasts at that time. And you should be focused on your studies and your exams, as well as any papers that you have to write, to focus on those to finish out this particular semester of fall. I will be returning Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. In the interim, don't hesitate to send me your questions through conversationsforcollegesuccess@hotmail.com, and I will respond. And if I don't respond directly to you, if it's something that I think would be helpful to the entire community, I will definitely make sure it's a part of my next podcast or one of my next podcasts. So thank you so much for continuing to listen. And until January 2024, please be safe. Good luck with finals. And I look forward to catching up with all of you very, very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.